This is the most broken Nen ability in all of Hunter x Hunter. Nanika's wish granting is a power so dangerous that on a meta level, it comes shockingly close to breaking the actual story itself. Because once the ability becomes known, surely it becomes the entire focus of this world. Because we must control this power, or there is no greater threat to anything than this power. But it also comes with questions, such as why didn't Killua use wish granting during the Chimera Ant arc? It would have been a pretty simple way to get rid of this annoying Ant King problem, or would it? Because these wishes aren't free unless you're Killua. But even then, they're not free, and it's purely for semantic reasons. And if you're a seasoned Hunter x Hunter fan, then I know that nothing will excite you more than the semantics of Nen abilities. But I also have something even better for you. Because at the end of this video, we are going to calculate exactly what the cost would be to make a wish to kill the Ant King Meruem. Feel free to comment with your bet right now. And to be clear, the cost we're talking about is human lives. Also, this fictional Hunter content is sponsored by Ugreen, fantastic little robots that make charging your devices fast and easy. With 65 watts of high-speed charging power, you can charge an iPhone 15 to about 60% in just 30 minutes. This little bad boy right here is the Ugreen Nexode RG 65-watt charger. And I know this name very well because I genuinely have 3 of these little friends scattered throughout my office. Because I am incredibly lazy, and wherever I go, I want to make sure there's a thing that can charge my stuff. And this is the thing. They come equipped with revolutionary GaN technology, which provides a whopping 95% energy conversion efficiency and significantly reduces heat generation whilst charging. In addition to Ugreen's inbuilt thermal guard protection to ensure the safety of your devices. Here's the thing though, they look and are in fact wildly adorable, but don't let that fool you because they pack an absolute punch when it comes to power. I often have one of my dudes set up charging up to 3 devices at once, and it does so with an assortment of cute emoji expressions that change depending on the charge status. And Ugreen also has a 30-watt option should you desire lower power. But I really cannot recommend these guys enough. You can and should check them out through my link in the description, because not only do they support the life of my devices, they also support the life of this channel. So do that thing, but for now it's back to you, me. Before we get into that though, it's never been confirmed that wish granting is a Nen ability. However, it was heavily implied in chapter 334, when Nanika grants the wish of healing Gon, after which point a colossal amount of what appears to be aura was released. No one specifically states that it's aura, so maybe it's some sort of unknown quantity of power, but everything else about it is consistent with the Nen system, particularly its adherence to balance. With one completely system-breaking exception, every wish comes with an equal and often exceptionally horrifying consequence, very in keeping with the idea that aura can only be used to grant great power at great cost. Wish granting is actually kind of like a reverse genie, because to have a wish granted, you first need to fulfill 3 of Alka's requests. So you grant 3 wishes and then the genie appears. Nanika takes over Alka's body, and then Nanika will grant 1 wish for you. Alka could say something like, pick me up, give me a piggyback ride, take my hand. So that's nice. You do those 3 simple things and then you get yourself a wish. Not a bad day's work at all. And because series author Yoshihiro Togashi loves game mechanics, Alka's demands work on a level-based system. The 3 aforementioned demands are examples of level 1 requests. Now let's say the person wishes for a brand new car. Nice, you got your car and you just drive away like a boss. However, the next person that Alka encounters will be given another set of requests. But this time, let's say they're level 10 requests, because a new car had a level 10 rating. So instead of stuff like pick me up and take my hand, the requests are now something along the lines of rip off your fingernails, break your arm, cut off your foot, something like that. They're what we're going to call unreasonable requests. And if the person who came before you was particularly greedy with their wish, then there's no telling just how high that request level can go. In fact, there's a certain point where Alka will reach seemingly impossible requests, such as give me your liver, give me your intestines, give me your spine, or even give me your brain. Those were actual requests made after someone wished for a billion Jenny. So slightly higher value than a car, 20, maybe even 30 times more, maybe even more depending on the car. And this is a problem because if you fail to meet these requests, Nanika then kills you by squashing you into human goop, as well as kills the people closest to you until enough lives have been taken to justify the cost of the previous wish. However, after this, Nanika then resets to level 1 requests. So this would be the prime time to make a wish yourself. Also, the same person cannot make 2 wishes in a row. So this sort of prevents Nanika's ability from being repeatedly abused by the same person, but also not really. All that happens is you just need at least 2 people to abuse it instead. And Killua himself suggests that the wishes Nanika can grant are probably limited limitless. Although I would say that there has to be some limit, because there's only so much that exists to be paid as a cost in this world/universe. However, that is so far beyond our comprehension that it's effectively limitless. But eventually you will probably hit a point where the wish granting ends up killing Alika herself. Because at some point, by virtue of spending even a short amount of time with the person she's making demands to, Alika herself will be somewhere on the kill list, very far down, but if the wish is big enough, then Nanika could end up eliminating Alika and thus maybe even itself. But this sort of thing is just what happens when Dark Continent creatures discover Nen. As soon as they can access basic aura control, they constitute a threat that could almost instantly wipe out all of humanity. It happened with the Chimera Ants, and it happened here again with Nanika, aka the Dark Continent Calamity Eye. And like a lot of Nen abilities, wish granting also comes with a secret condition known only to the user, and or a specific target of the user, in this case Killua, because whilst everyone else is granted a wish, Killua, and only Killua, has the ability to issue Nanika with a command. And because a command is semantically different from a wish, Killua is able to bypass any backlash from previous wishes, and also Killua's command will be enacted without repercussions from the wish system. Wishes and commands exist in two completely different systems. A wish does not affect a command, nor does a command affect a wish or its requirements. And given that they exist separate from each other, Killua can even make commands whilst Nanika is in the middle of making her own requests. But essentially, Killua has limitless power at his disposal. All he needs to do is ask. So Killua could have simply wished to kill the Ant King, and then bam, Meruem would have been gone without any consequences at all, which is not particularly balanced. Although in terms of, the Nens, the only real argument I can make for it is that this power was granted to the person least likely to use it. The most trustworthy, because Killua would never want to use his sister like the rest of his family hoped to. Other than that though, it's pretty completely broken. So, question. Why didn't Killua use Nanika to kill or otherwise defeat Meruem? And also, secondary question, why didn't Killua use Nanika to heal Kite? And by heal, I mean bring back to life, because both Gon and Killua thought that he was still salvageable. The easy answer to this is because Togashi simply didn't know that Alika existed yet, which is actually my answer to most Hunter x Hunter questions. Togashi rarely thinks beyond the current arc when he's writing. However, in this particular case, it's not that simple, because Togashi certainly did know that Alika, or someone who would eventually become Alika, already existed. It's slightly complicated, and the internet isn't going to give you a straightforward answer, so here's what and why. There is a misconception that Alika was planned from the early days of Hunter x Hunter, because in the 2011 anime, they show a silhouette of the whole Zoldyck family, which includes Alika. And for people who haven't read the manga, it seems like Alika had been planned from the very beginning. And look, in that particular version of Hunter x Hunter, it's very solid foreshadowing, and also a case of just plain literal shadowing, because manga authors love their silhouettes. But there's also a sub-misconception of people being a bit perplexed by the silhouette. People thinking that the anime showed Alika before the manga did. Because it's a common belief that the 2011 anime didn't even know if they were going to tackle the Chimera Ant arc because it hadn't finished when the anime started airing. Which is one explanation for why Kite's story in chapter 1 was booted. And therefore, if the Chimera Ant arc hadn't finished being published in the manga, then how could the anime show Alika, who did not exist yet, in this silhouette? Well, the reason for this is because none of that's true. The 2011 anime started airing on October 2nd, 2011, and the very next day, on October 3rd, the final Chimera Ant arc chapter, Final Will, was published. The anime production obviously started earlier, before the Chimera Ant arc ended, but they knew that they were gonna be fine. They were practically at the finish line already. And later, that very same month and year, Alika was first fully seen in the manga. And fun fact, I'm actually writing this video on the 2nd of October on the 12th anniversary of Hunter x Hunter, which I was alerted to by this tweet whilst literally writing this paragraph. All of which is to say that when it comes to Hunter x Hunter, it can be much more difficult to talk about than a lot of other series, because more so than most fan bases I've encountered, there's a huge amount of urban myths that go on to become truth because they're just repeated so often. I'm even guilty of spreading a lot of them because I took them at face value because people kept saying them at me, so I thought that they must be true. The people are saying it a lot. Regardless, in the manga, Alika's silhouette does not appear. We just hear the words of the Zoldyck tour guide who says, "The family presently consists of 5 siblings, the parents, a set of grandparents, and a great-grandfather. Assassins all." So Togashi definitely knew that there was another Zoldyck. He even drew the character that would eventually become Alika during the Chimera Ant arc in chapter 229. One of my personal favorite chapters, because immediately after we see this delightsome family photo, Feitan calls Sphinx a bitch. He may have and was probably talking to Zazan, but I like to think that it was in response to Sphinx offering to swap. So in this case, I don't think it's fair to say that Togashi didn't know that Alika existed yet. I do, however, think it's fair to say that he hadn't fully baked this particular Zoldyck cake, because the real-world time gap between this photo and Alika's proper introduction was just under 7 years. Unusually, this is a scenario where I think we should give Togashi credit because the idea may have existed. So that means we return to the question of, why didn't Killua use Alika for anything during the Chimera Ant arc? And one explanation is because the situation was not as hopeless as Election Arc Gon's condition was. It's interesting to think about, but at the time, nobody really knew the full extent of Meruem's power. The true scale of the threat was not quantified until the mission was happening. All the extermination team really had to judge things by was their brief experiences with Neferpitou, which Gon and Killua genuinely thought that they could just train hard and overcome Pitou, whilst Netero handled the king. I mean, to be fair, you've got Chairman Netero on your team, how could you lose? Stakes were high, but I don't think anyone was truly prepared for what they were going to encounter, except for Netero. Whereas the situation after Gon's transformation was evidently extremely dire, because it was a consequence of him needing to summon the power to beat the creatures that we had underestimated and now understood. The other and potentially also correct explanation is because Killua didn't want to expose Alika to the world. And this is why Killua is my favorite character in Hunter x Hunter. Because beyond all of the cool action and comedy, he's just a genuinely nice guy who wanted to protect his sister. Bringing Alika in during the Chimera Ant events means exposing her to the Hunter Association. And once they're aware of her abilities, Alika will be hunted by someone. Whether it's the Association, its individual hunters, the Phantom Troop, the Karkin Empire, or the V5 nations who were keeping track of Dark Continent creatures, whoever, the power is either too tempting to leave alone or considered to be too dangerous to leave alone. Even Killua himself initially sees Nanika as a threat and plans to make a wish so that Nanika never wakes up again. And as it is, to use Nanika during the election arc, Killua had to get a lot of people on board to have it happen in secrecy, and the whole thing was very much an internal Zoldyck family affair, taking place on a very large scale. Sometimes you'll even hear speculation that Illumi's Nida was blocking Killua's memory of Alika, or at least it instilled him with the idea that letting Alika go free would be catastrophic. And you know what? To that I say maybe. But let's now ask the ultimate question. What would be the cost of killing Meruem? To be clear, this is not a command, this is a wish, so there will be a cost. And the metric we're going to use is the wish for 1 billion Jenny. Jenny, of course, being the fictional currency that correlates pretty much 1-to-1 with the Japanese yen. And the exchange rate of 1 billion yen is approximately $6,673,229 US. So to make that wish a reality costs the lives of 67 people. The poor Zoldyck servant Yasua, her lover, and 65 other people that were closest to her, as in spent the most time with her over her life. Not close as in proximity, which is an important distinction. In fact, the Zoldyck family are very lucky that they adopt an antisocial policy with most servants, because this could have ended up taking some of them out. Also, they say that it killed 67 people that we know of, implying that there could have been more, but we're gonna stick to 67. Which means that according to Nanika, a single human life is worth approximately $99,600 US. So basically what we need to do from here is figure out Meruem's net worth. Meruem is of course the ant dictator of East Gorto, meaning that he has complete control over all of its resources and its 5 million inhabitants. Now East Gorto is not particularly subtly based on North Korea, which has a gross domestic product of around 18 billion US. And as the dictator of fictional North Korea, we're gonna say that Meruem is worth at least that. So if we divide that 18 billion by the average worth of a human life, the answer we come to is that a wish to kill the Ant King Meruem would cost 180,722 lives, which is honestly a lot less than I thought it would be. However, this is a conservative estimate because Meruem's value can't necessarily be quantified by net worth alone. It may also take his strength into account. Maybe there's even a cost per aura system involved, or maybe it even takes his potential future into account. But with that in mind, I think the Hunter Association got a bit of a bargain, taking Meruem's life at the cost of one chairman. It was either that or at least 180,000 humans, or in the worst case, all of humanity. However, if it was a command, then none of that matters, because command granting is the single most broken ability in Hunter x Hunter.